Greetings, welcome to Facts About Everything. I'm your host, James Egan. There's been many videos commemorating Stan Lee's memory after he passed away. I get asked to do comic book stuff more than any other video by far, and the very first one I ever did about comics on my channel was about Stan Lee, because how else are you going to start talking about a channel about comics? So I've already done that, so to commemorate him after his passing, I decided to go back to the beginning. I've done this channel for 2 years. Nobody has ever asked me, one time, to do a video about the Fantastic Four. Do you know how many people asked me to do a video about Toad? 8. Fantastic Four? Nada. Zip. Why? Because the 4 Fantastic Four movies are terrible. So they think the Fantastic Four comics are rubbish. In fact, interest in the comics are so down, it actually was cancelled a few years ago. The first comic Stan Lee ever created under the Marvel name was cancelled. That is literally like cancelling Superman, and there's just no more Superman comics. Imagine that. That's what happened. I adore the Fantastic Four. The movies are bad. They're really bad. That's why I decided to do this video, to show you how amazing, how influential these comic books are. Even if you've never been interested in them, they started Marvel Comics. They were one of the biggest influences on the Silver Age of comics, and they launched Stan Lee's career. So this is 100 facts about the Fantastic Four. Let's dive in. They debuted in Fantastic Four #1 in 1961. It was the official launch of Marvel Comics. By the way, if you see this comic in mint condition, it's worth about £105,000. And the funny thing is, if this comic didn't sell well, Stan Lee would have quit comics. And we wouldn't have all this. The Fantastic Four were exposed to cosmic radiation while they were on a space mission. This changed their lives forever as they each gained superpowers. The team is made up of Reed Richards, better known as Mr. Fantastic, his wife Susan Storm, better known as Invisible Girl, her brother Johnny Storm, better known as the Human Torch, and Reed's best friend, Ben Grimm, better known as The Thing. The Fantastic Four's powers represent the 4 elements. The Human Torch represents fire, the Thing represents earth, the Invisible Girl represents air, and Mr. Fantastic represents water. The Fantastic Four are one of the few superheroes whose identity has always been public knowledge. The first villain they fought was the Mole Man. Also, that iconic monster that's on the front of the first comic is called Giganto. They live in the Baxter Building at 42nd Street and Madison Avenue. The team stay in the Avengers Mansion anytime their home is being rebuilt. By the way, cosmic radiation? That's a real thing. Which is weird, because Stan Lee didn't know that when he thought he made it up. And you're thinking, okay, there is a thing called cosmic radiation, but that's just a coincidence. It doesn't give you superpowers. It kind of does. China uses cosmic radiation to create superfruits and vegetables that can make food like pumpkins weigh over 500 pounds. The ink on the Fantastic Four #110 didn't print properly, which made all the main characters have pink costumes and blue skin. The Thing appeared green instead of orange. Okay, let's look at the individual members themselves. Let's start with the leader, Mr. Fantastic. After being exposed to cosmic rays, Reed Richards has superhuman elasticity, malleability, and endurance. He is so elastic, he is immune to almost every single physical attack. Although super stretching may not sound like the greatest power, it makes Reed nearly impossible to kill. He can't be shot, stabbed, or punched without the impact stretching out his body. It's very difficult for him to drown or be poisoned, as he can inflate his lungs to vast size. Reed Richards can bulk up his mass using his stretching powers until he has the same shape and strength as the Thing. He usually only does this when his children are in danger. He can use his stretching powers to turn his arm into a lasso, which he uses to ensnare criminals. Reed Richards has an assistant robot called Herbie, which stands for Humanoid Experimental Robot B-Type Integrated Electronics. Reed Richards is the smartest person in the world. He is so smart, he split his first atom when he was 15. When he was 25, he spliced a gene and created new life. Stan Lee based Mr. Fantastic off the DC superhero Plastic Man. Reed keeps most of his equations and theories on his computer pad. One day, these equations gained sentience and formed into a physical manifestation of all of Reed's theories. This being was called modulus. Reed originally smoked a pipe. In hindsight, he regrets, quote, smoking that ridiculous pipe. Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four in general's nemesis is Dr. Doom, who rules as a dictator over the European country of Latveria. Reed overthrew Dr. Doom's home country of Latveria and declared himself ruler. Okay, you're gonna love this fact. Reed came across a council of Reeds in another dimension. This council was made up of multiple Reeds from different universes. They used their combined intellect to create a perfect multiverse. Reed decided not to join them as they all had one thing in common. None of them had a family. And if that sounds familiar, this story inspired the Council of Ricks in Rick and Morty.
You wanted to be safe from the government, so you became a stupid government. That makes every Rick here less Rick than me.
In the book Foundation, Reed reads about the concept of psychohistory. Psychohistory is a fictional branch of science that uses equations to predict future trends by mathematically modeling history. Reed liked this concept so much that he put it into practice. He uses equations to calculate the likelihood of any future probability. It was the first scientific field he ever invented. Reed created a clone of Thor and fused its cells with a cyborg. However, it couldn't be controlled and killed the Avenger, Goliath, in battle. According to Reed's calculations, the end justifies the means only 1.396% of the time. Reed worked on a project called New World. It is an artificial world designed for humanity after the Earth dies. According to New World's creators, the Earth will die in a decade. I mean, that story was written 10 years ago, but it's fine because the Earth just got better. Reed makes his children perform a villain drill every Saturday morning so they know what to do if they are attacked or kidnapped by a supervillain. Reed is so intelligent that he defeated the supervillain, the Mad Thinker, with an insulating coffee cup sleeve. It was the greatest battle ever. Okay, now let's look at Ben Grimm, better known as The Thing. Ben Grimm has been a friend of Reed Richards since they were kids. Ben was a football player that used to protect Reed from being bullied. He is Reed's only friend. Ben's skin took on a rocky exterior. His exterior is based on dinosaur hide. This made him strong enough to go toe-to-toe with the Hulk. Ben only has 3 fingers and a thumb on each hand. Ben's catchphrase is, "It's clobbering time." This is quite well known, but he has another lesser known catchphrase, which is, "What a revolting development." Ben is Jewish. This wasn't clear for decades because Marvel wanted to avoid religious connotations. However, an observant reader can tell he's Jewish from the slang he uses. Ben suffers from depression since he feels trapped within his own rocky skin, and he is upset that he can't have a proper relationship with a woman. Dr. Doom once killed Ben in battle. The rest of the Fantastic Four went to heaven to get Ben back. They even met God. Nice guy. Also, drawing God like Jack Kirby was a nice touch. After Ben Grimm turned into the Thing, he stopped aging. Ben's longtime girlfriend is Alicia Masters, a blind sculptress who happens to be the daughter of the Fantastic Four foe, the Puppet Master. As I said, the Fantastic Four was cancelled recently, but readers love the Thing and they want to see more of him, which is why in recent comics, the Thing joined the Guardians of the Galaxy. The Thing is so strong, he defeated Wolverine with one punch. There is a 1979 cartoon called Fred and Barney Meet the Thing. The Fred and Barney in the title refers to the characters from the Flintstones. Now you may be asking, why is the Thing from the Fantastic Four in a cartoon with the Flintstones? Here's the problem. He's not. The Flintstones would have an episode, which was followed by a cartoon, where the Thing would save a group of picnickers from a motorcycle gang.
Delicious, Miss Twilly.
That was an actual episode. If they're not in the same cartoon, then why is it called Fred and Barney Meet the Thing? I don't know. There's no joke to this. I don't know. Although the Thing looks the same as the comic book character, he did not have any association with the Fantastic Four. His name isn't even Ben Grimm. He's a geeky teenager who turned into the Thing when he connects 2 rings together and says,
Thing ring, do your thing.
This cartoon is the worst thing that's ever happened. I mean, obviously apart from... No, it's the worst thing that ever happened. When Ben Grimm was turned into the Thing, he was devastated by his rock-like appearance. Reed Richards vowed to find a way to reverse what happened to Ben. He performed an experiment that he was certain would revert Ben to normal. However, Johnny Storm fiddled with the experiment just before it was complete. When it didn't work, Ben realized that he'd be the Thing forever. When he learned that Johnny was responsible for the experiment failing, he vowed never to speak to him again. The Thing weighs 500 pounds. According to Stan Lee, the Thing is made of orange rock everywhere. Everywhere. I am, of course, referencing his penis. When the US government made it mandatory for every superhero to work with S.H.I.E.L.D. or face life imprisonment, the Thing left the country. After he left America, and the Fantastic Four in general, he moved to France to continue his superhero lifestyle. The Thing's punch has the same force of a car driving 52 miles per hour. An alternative comic shows what would have happened if Thing's rock-like body continued to mutate. Now let's look at Johnny Lowell Spencer Storm, better known as the Human Torch. After he was exposed to cosmic rays, Johnny can turn his body into fire and fly faster than the speed of sound. It is also nearly impossible for him to be burnt. He is the youngest member of the Fantastic Four. He was only 16 when he obtained his power. His nicknames are Matchstick, Blaze, Hothead, and Firebug. Johnny wears clothing made of unstable molecules that don't burn when he activates his power. Otherwise, he'd be naked. A lot. There was a cartoon of the Fantastic Four in 1978. The Human Torch was replaced with a robot called Rob. Many people believed he wasn't in the show because parents were worried he would encourage children to set fire to things. In reality, the show couldn't get the rights for his name because there was another superhero called the Human Torch. Die Hard fans know who I'm talking about, and please let me know if you want me to do a video about that character. Everybody knows that Chris Evans played the Human Torch, and Michael B. Jordan also played the Human Torch. But do you know who else played him? Bill Murray. Yes, that Bill Murray played the Human Torch in early radio shows. When Johnny Storm turned into the Human Torch, he looks like a man on fire. But when he turned into the Human Torch in the first 2 issues, he looked like a fiery streak. Johnny married Alicia Masters, who I've already referenced as Ben Grimm, the Thing's girlfriend. However, it was later revealed that this was a shape-shifting alien called a Skrull. If you don't know what a Skrull is now, you will next year when they appear in Captain Marvel. Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm's relationship is based on the writers Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Johnny Storm used to be the leader of his own team called the Fantastic Force. The Fantastic Force was made up of Johnny Storm, Psylord, Vibraxis, Huntara, Devlor, She-Hulk, and Black Panther. Johnny Storm is an incredible race car driver. He's also a great auto mechanic and car designer. He has a lot of banter with Ben Grimm. When Ben got engaged, the Human Torch flew into the sky and wrote, "Congratulations, Ben and Debbie, in fire." All the Thing could say is, the things some guys will do to save money on a card. Johnny Storm is very good friends with Spider-Man. In fact, when the Human Torch seemingly died, Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four. To which you might be thinking, wait, the Human Torch died? Well, the alien overlord Annihilus rules a dimension called the Negative Zone. He intended to break into the Fantastic Four's universe and rule all of existence with an iron fist. When Annihilus's forces broke out of the Negative Zone, Johnny forced them back. He realized that the portal between his world and the Negative Zone could only be sealed from Annihilus's point. As a result, he deactivated the portal from the Negative Zone, preventing him from returning home. He incinerated as many of Annihilus's forces as possible before he was killed. However, Annihilus resurrected Johnny as he knew that he was the only one that could let his army gain access to Earth. Stan Lee said the X-Man, Iceman, is a carbon copy in appearance and attitude to the Human Torch, and the only difference was that he has the opposite power. And now let's look at the final member, Sue Storm, better known as Invisible Girl.
That's the Invisible Girl.
What about your leader?
Although as she got older, she became known as the Invisible Woman. Obviously, based off her name, you know that she has the ability to turn invisible. But many readers don't know she can also make herself invisible to infrared, so she can't be picked up on radar. She can also make herself invisible to ultraviolet, and she can make other objects go invisible too. To which you might think, okay, that's pretty cool, but that's not going to really help you fight like Dr. Doom or Magneto, is it? But Susan Storm is not to be underestimated. Her only power was invisibility for the first 2 years, but after that, the writers added her ability to create invisible force fields and shoot blasts of psionic energy. She can also use her invisibility to make her enemies' optic nerves go invisible, rendering them blind and completely helpless. A future version of Sue Storm traveled to the present to save the world. Although she saved everyone, she was killed by Dr. Doom. The Fantastic Four had a funeral for future Sue. This means that Sue Storm was at her own funeral. She cried. A lot. Not because she was sad, but because it was weird. I mean, who attends her own funeral? Sue gave birth to 2 children, Franklin and Valeria. Dr. Doom personally delivered Valeria as a baby. He's also responsible for naming her. Franklin is named after his grandfather. He is a mutant and is destined to become the most powerful being in the entire Marvel universe. Valeria had a sudden boost of intelligence when she was 3 years old. Overnight, she became nearly as intelligent as Reed Richards. She is so smart that she invented a trailer that uses quantum mechanics, so it's 200 times bigger on the inside than the outside. She got the idea by watching Doctor Who. Do Americans know what Doctor Who is? It's like, I don't know, I've never seen it. Even though Sue is on a team with a rock guy and a man made of fire, Sue Storm is the most powerful member of the Fantastic Four. How, you may ask? Well, she can defeat the Hulk by forcing him to inhale a microscopic force field and then expanding it to the size of Yankee Stadium. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're the Hulk, that's gonna kill anybody. Also, Sue Storm has stood her own against Iron Man, Luke Cage, Spider-Woman, Hawkeye, the Hulk, and Thor at the same time. But she wasn't like that at the start because it was the 60s, so you know what that means. Sue was the damsel in distress at least 14 times in the first 4 years of the Fantastic Four's debut. As time went on, she became the damsel less and less, but she didn't become a strong independent character until the 1980s. But I must emphasize, male writers were writing her as a strong independent woman. So you know what that means. You see, Sue is an older superheroine and she's a mother of 2 children. Nevertheless, comic book artists have tried their best to turn her into a sex symbol, usually by giving her overly revealing costumes. These costumes never last long, as readers complain that they are sexist and highly inappropriate. Dr. Doom has been in love with Sue for years. In an alternative comic, Sue Storm became the rock monster, The Thing. Sue can create any invisible shape she desires. She has used her force field powers to create medical tools to commit a surgical procedure. There was a man who was in love with Sue Storm but never had the nerve to ask her out. When she fell for Reed Richards, he became insanely jealous. Years later, Reed learned that this man was responsible for many attacks against the Fantastic Four. He said he worked in the background, pitting villains against you or creating opportunities so villains would think they were acting of their own volition since the beginning of the Fantastic Four's existence. He calls himself the Quiet Man. His real name is unknown. Okay, now let's look at the Fantastic Four just in general. Jack Kirby and Stan Lee personally wrote the first 100 issues of the Fantastic Four. Jack Kirby insisted that he was the person that created the Fantastic Four, while Stan Lee just wrote the dialogue. Stan Lee insisted that he was the one who created the Fantastic Four, while Jack Kirby just drew the pictures. This is still disputed to this day. Also, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby made their first appearance within one of their stories in Fantastic Four number 10 in 1962. Okay, if this was the first story that Stan Lee created under the Marvel banner, he must have had a really good reason. Why did he choose these characters? Well, Stan Lee never liked indestructible heroes like Superman. This is what inspired him to create the vulnerable and fallible heroes like the Fantastic Four. He said he wanted to create characters who were flesh and blood, fallible and foisty, and had faults and foibles. Stan Lee described the Fantastic Four as heroes with hang-ups. And Stan Lee's right. The Thing has a temper, the Human Torch is immature, Mr. Fantastic neglects his family, and the Invisible Girl feels invisible. The Fantastic Four's mode of transport is the Fantastic Car. It is a hovercraft with 4 passenger seats. It can split into 4 mini-crafts if the Fantastic Four needs to go in separate directions. The Baxter Building and the Fantastic Car both debuted in the same issue. This was also the issue where the Fantastic Four got their costumes. By the way, being exposed to cosmic radiation sounds a bit dangerous, doesn't it? Well, years later, Reed noticed that his arm was withering away. After analyzing his cells, he learned that the cosmic rays that gave him his power were killing him. He naturally assumed that the cosmic rays will eventually kill the rest of the Fantastic Four. Not knowing how to reverse molecular decay, he decided to spend a year traveling through the multiverse to find a cure. He traveled with his team and family under the pretense of a holiday, so they did not know the cosmic rays were killing them. While doing this, he left a spare Fantastic Four on Earth in his absence. The team is made up of Ant-Man, Medusa, She-Hulk, and Human Torch's girlfriend, Darla. The Fantastic Four have a badge that allows them to park anywhere in New York at any time. One time, the Fantastic Four fought 8 versions of themselves on the moon. This is why nobody reads the Fantastic Four. Days before the 9/11 attacks, Marvel released a comic where the Fantastic Four fought a villain called Jihad. Awkward. There's a parallel universe with an evil version of the Fantastic Four. In this universe, Dr. Doom is a metallic shapeshifter, much like the T-1000 in Terminator 2. His daughter, Valeria, is the Invincible Woman. Doom's stepson, Christoph, is the Inhuman Torch. And Ben Grimm is an unintelligible rock monster called the It. But the most famous evil version of the Fantastic Four is the Frightful Four. Although there's many versions of this team, the first was made up of the Wizard, the Trapster, Sandman, and Medusa. Simon Utrecht tried to replicate the accent that gave the Fantastic Four their powers. When he and his teammates Michael Steele, Anne Darnell, and James Darnell were exposed to cosmic rays, their bodies were transformed. Utrecht became known as Vector and obtained the ability to manipulate energy. Michael turned into a metallic being called Ironclad. James turned into X-Ray and obtained the ability to create solid radiation. Anne turned into Vapor and obtained the ability to control gas. Together they are known as the UFOs. A comic was released in 1990 that showed how differently the Fantastic Four would have functioned if they all got the same powers. There's another comic that shows what would have happened if the Fantastic Four never obtained their superpowers. A cartoon of the Fantastic Four was made in 1994. Many comic book fans consider the theme song to be one of the worst theme songs of all time. Let's compare. And then this. The first issue of Fantastic Four was voted by an online poll as the 2nd greatest Marvel story ever. When Johnny Storm seemingly died, the team reinvented itself to focus more on scientific research and rename itself as the Future Foundation. The 1960s were a different time. No sentence is good when it starts that way. In this time, heroes would say and do things that would not be particularly acceptable now. Even though Reed Richards was the first superhero under the Marvel banner, he had some pretty inappropriate habits in his early adventures. He would dismiss Sue Storm with sexist remarks like, "Stop sounding like a wife," or "Wives should be kissed and not heard." He even slapped her at least 4 times when he couldn't talk sense to her. Yeah, that is pretty bad. Reed and Sue are very different from each other, and they have very different ways to express their love for one another. As an anniversary present, Reed gave Sue a ring, but instead of having a jewel in the ring, it had a micro-galaxy, 74 inhabited worlds, and over 40 trillion couples, all loving each other like I love you. And what did Sue get Reed? The new Bob Dylan CD. And he loved it. Thing used to play poker with Captain America, Iron Man, and Nick Fury. Although the Thing has fought the Hulk several times, he's only defeated the Jade Giant once. However, Thing only won because his rocky exterior mutated, which made him far stronger. On top of that, Hulk was in a weakened state. For their anniversary, Reed and Sue went back in time to eat at a restaurant right beside where the younger versions of Reed and Sue first bumped into each other. There's an animal parody version of the Fantastic Four called the Fantastic Fur. So there's an ape version of Sue Storm called the Invisible Gorilla. There's an ape version of Human Torch called the Simian Torch. There's a moose version of Mr. Fantastic called Mooster Fantastic. And there's a bear version of Thing called Thang. His real name is Ben Grizzly. Reed Richards has an idea room where he has scribbled the walls, floors, and ceiling with over 100 ideas to make the world a better place. For years, he is obsessed about idea number 101. Solve everything. A woman called Sharon Ventura was bombarded by cosmic rays and took on the resemblance of the Thing. She became known as She-Thing. Over time, she became a member of the Fantastic Four. Since the Fantastic Four were Marvel's first superheroes, they are nicknamed Marvel's First Family. One of the reasons the Fantastic Four did so well was because it was released when America and Russia were involved in the space race, since they obtained their powers while in space. Reed Richards went back in time, he goes back in time a lot, to the point before the universe existed. His desire to know everything about the universe created a spark. This spark became the Big Bang, which formed the universe. This means that Reed Richards' desire for knowledge created the universe. So Reed is God. Technically. There's a comic that asks a question that has puzzled philosophers for millennia. What if the Fantastic Four were bananas? It was better than George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones novel. Speaking of George R.R. Martin, George R.R. Martin used to write letters to Marvel about the Fantastic Four when he was 14. Some of his letters can be seen at the back of the comic's earliest issues. He said that the comics were greater than great and absolutely stupendous, but also pointed out plot holes like how an American president would never leave a global security meeting just to tuck their child into bed. Oh, what do you know, Martin? You write a book. Wait. Okay, you knew this was coming. A film of the Fantastic Four was made in 1994. You may have never heard of it because it was never supposed to be released. The studio bought the rights to make the Fantastic Four years ago, and they had to make it into a movie before a certain date, or the rights would revert to Marvel. This is why Marvel Studios have never made a Fantastic Four film, or have incorporated the characters into the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Iron Man, Thor, Ant-Man, and Hulk. Until very recently, Fox owned the rights for making the Fantastic Four movies. However, Marvel Studios was so desperate to retain the rights to the Fantastic Four that they cancelled the comic book series in 2015, hoping it would stop people from seeing the reboot of Fantastic Four, which was released the same year. The film tanked, and the proposed sequel was cancelled. And this isn't a conspiracy or anything. This decision was made directly by the president of Marvel. He cancelled the first Marvel Supers team to spite a studio because he's a jerk. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Please let me know if there's any other superheroes you want me to do a video about, and I'll upload it as soon as possible. To learn more facts, check out my books on Amazon. They're available on paperback and Kindle. Thanks for watching. See you again.